Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Breaking the Lens of Bias. My name is Kat Killian. Glad to be here with you today, albeit a little late. My poor dog has caught kennel cough when we had boarded her last weekend. So we're hoping she's on the mend and will get well soon. But anyway, so I'm here to talk today about arguing. And I don't know about you, but I can do it all the time. I can do it about the smallest things, um, the way I think that things should be done, the things that I believe in, and anything, pretty much anything. Um, but is there a value in arguing? And I'd like to say, yes, there can be, if we come from a point of critical thinking about things, if we come from the point of view that the value found in arguing is to learn. When you have two people who have different viewpoints, if you are both open minded to hearing the other's argument and considering it rationally, um, believing that they're coming from a place of goodwill, um, and um, have maybe some humility that you might be wrong, that you might not know everything, that there may be things that you haven't considered. Um, so, so I'm going to talk about that. Have you ever had a political argument with somebody where you were both entrenched on one side or the other, and the person is in the opposite side from you? Usually, I find what happens in those kinds of discussions is that there's a lack of goodwill. Um, in terms of you assume that the other person is ignorant or lying or stupid, um, and they don't know what they're talking about. um, and does that get anywhere? What is the purpose then? It's just a back and forth kind of thing. I remember when I was in high school, I was on the debate team for a while, and of course the goal was to win the debate, win the argument. um, but there was a lot of things that you could actually learn from that. That was more of an intellectual exercise, and what evidence could you provide to prove your point. Um, and that's actually a very good thing. It's not just how well it's argued, which is part of the purpose of the debate, but it's also what you bring to the table, the information that you bring to the table. And I remember back then, that was before airbags were uh, pretty much standard in cars. And so that was the debate, as to was were airbags effective, in terms of being cost effective, in terms of saving lives, and over seat belts and things like that. So, and we had little pieces of evidence, little studies that we would bring, whether we were affirmative or negative, in bringing to that. But the point was is to get that information out there. Now, in real life, in normal life, you're not going to have time limits, and you're not going to necessarily have researched every topic ahead of time, that a team might bring to you, that someone might bring to you. But you do have your knowledge based on what you read, what you understand, um, how you view the world. And so if you go into an argument with somebody, somebody will say something, um, to you. It's important to, rather than trench down into your bias, your view of the world, is to say, I'm interested in what that person has to say, and listen to them. And there may be points that you have not um, considered before. Uh, so it's if you look at the point of an argument is to find the truth rather than to prove your point, you will get a lot farther. And I've been practicing this in my own personal life a lot. At home, we argue about things. What is the proper way to do laundry? How, how do you get the grill built? That was a fun one the other day. And there was the one point where we had this one battery, and we knew it was for the electronic ignition, but we didn't know where it goes, and the instructions didn't tell us. And it was like, wow, what do we do? And we're looking around trying to find this. Well, check this. No, you check that. And so we realized we didn't have the facts. We were trying to find out the truth. And the thought occurred to me, of course, ask Google. I'm sure YouTube is going to have an answer to it. And sure enough, where does the battery go in a barbecue grill? Looked it up, found it right away. There was a video on how to do it, and it was like, oh, okay. We would have never thought of that on our own. We would have never had that knowledge. But we both knew enough. We were trying different things, and we were having goodwill towards each other because we didn't know. And that was the really interesting part of that argument, is that we didn't know. So we had to find the answer. And finding it on YouTube, we got the battery in, and we were able to light the grill and enjoy a delicious barbecue. But there's other things in life that we know something about. We know something about our political views. Uh, we know something about whatever in life. How to do laundry, because we all have different ways of doing laundry. Um, and so the point is to find the best way for those things, to have that understanding. And like in a political argument, or how to do laundry, again, you can disagree with somebody, but it's helpful to hear why you don't do that. So let's say you have, uh, a kid going away to college for the first time. Oh, laundry's easy. You just throw it in, you throw the detergent in, and you let it go. Well, is it really so easy? The first time they come home with pink clothes, all their white clothes have turned pink. They may discover that there might be a better way to do laundry, and to keep some things in mind. So it's like, what temperature do you put on? How do you put the soap in? Because some laundries require that you put it in a dispenser. Others require you put it in the bottom before. Some you can put it on top. Do you use powder? Do you use liquid? Do you use other kinds of things? If you are a person who's concerned about in the environment, you may want to use those laundry sheets that you can put in there. Um, so there's all kinds of things to consider. And of course, you want your clothes to come out clean, and you want them to basically keep their color, ideally. So all these things. So then you have this discussion to learn how to do laundry. So the student who's going to college for the first time, maybe has never done laundry in their home, thinks it's very simple based on what they know. They've seen mom put the laundry detergent in and put the clothes in, and that's it. Um, it's not that simple. And then there's the whole aspect of drying. So I'm going to assume most of you understand this who may be watching, but that purpose of that argument is to learn, to have that understanding. When I was working, a lot of times I was an expert in the system, but did I know every single thing about it? Absolutely not. So when my colleagues would say anything, I would still keep an open mind that I may be able to learn something else from somebody else. And so that was one of the important aspects in that, was I am not the argument. I may be the expert, but I had to be humble and say, I may not know everything, that someone may know something more than I do. And so then, therefore, I can evaluate my own conclusions and change my mind if I need to. Wow, that tool that somebody else was great. Or, oh, somebody else is doing it. And I know a way that might reduce the steps. So I could say, yes, I see the value in what you're doing. I see the point that you're getting done what needs to get done. But I know an easier way to do this, being that expert. Um, and things came across that way. And then sometimes people discover things that I didn't realize about the system in doing that. So again, going back to the idea, is it is it a tool to find the truth, or is argument a weapon to win? And it all depends on your perspective. I'm going to look up a few things. So there's like everyday arguments and critical thinking arguments. So everyday arguments are often based on opinions, biases, feelings, emotions. So I'm driving down the road and somebody comes cuts in front of me, and I assume, what an idiot! They don't know how to drive. That's based on my feelings, my emotions in that moment. Well, if I stop and think critically about that, I can realize, A, I don't have evidence. I don't know that they're an idiot driver. They didn't cause an accident. They may have startled me. I may have been momentarily distracted. They could be in a great hurry for something. They might be late to work or to an appointment. And so that's why they may not be the most courteous driver, but that doesn't necessarily make them an idiot. So how am I going to frame it? Am I going to frame it in a view of an everyday argument where it's based on my feelings, or am I going to try and support it by evidence, or at least think of possible evidence as to why that might be happening? Um, Oftentimes, when we're in the course of everyday arguments, we can be illogical. Uh, Going back to the laundry thing, it's very easy, but you don't think about the logic. Many of us know we have tags on our clothes that tell us the preferred washing method. Well, a kid might not be aware of those things. Again, they're not thinking about it. It's not doesn't make sense. It's not rational about these things. Logical will be based on reason and maybe even experience. So the logic says, well, you should probably read the tags on the clothes. The manufacturer puts them in for a reason, um, because they want to make sure that the clothes last, that you get the most satisfaction out of that colors don't run, things like that. Um, and so looking at that is saying, hmm, is this a logical reason? Am I looking, can I support what I'm concluding? Um, and versus that, yes, I can. Well, it says those should be washed separately, or it should be washed in light colors, or it should be washed in cold water or hot water. It should be hung up to dry as opposed to put in the dryer, or it should be tumble dry low. So all of those things are very important, and the logic dictates that you would go ahead and read those. Okay, I got a few more here, a couple more. Um, Oftentimes we argue because we feel something. We have a strong opinion about something. And oftentimes that can be come across as disrespectful and personal. I have a personal point of view that I'm trying to uh, get get off. And so if you don't agree with me, I'm going to disrespect your argument. This happens so frequently in politics. The latest thing with Trump fat shaming Chris Christie. So it's like, okay, talk about the issues, not people's personal ways that they appearance, and things like that. It's just like, wait a minute, you guys want to run the country, and you're talking about these very, very petty kinds of things, because making it personal, making it, it's about disrespectfulness rather than promoting learning and understanding, or at the very least in the realm of politics, making a succinct point about where you stand and what you're going to do. Um, so when you're critically thinking, those disagreements, and kind of went into that just now, they are respectful. They're not personal. You're not taking personal attacks against people. You are not taking personally what they say if they disagree with you. We're going to disagree about things. Um, And that's okay. As we get more and more facts, we still may disagree about them because we may have differing opinions, different interpretations of those facts. But at least we can say, can we agree to disagree? One of my favorite phrases. And again, the last thing we talked about, it's used, if you're looking at an everyday argument, it's used to win. It's used to be right. I'm right, you must change your mind. Um, and in a way, I happen to work with some great groups where we may have disagreements, but we bring everything out to the table and we listen to everyone. And problem solving or arguing is collaborative. The idea is not to make your point and win. The point is to find a greater understanding, and we can move forward much better in the things that we're trying to do and the things that we are trying to accomplish together by that goal. So my challenge for you today, and as you go forward into this next week, is, do you want to argue to win or do you want to argue to learn? No judgment. But if you come to me, I would prefer that you argue to learn and to understand rather than to win. Because frankly, I life is too short to have kinds of arguments about winning and losing. It's more important about coming into an understanding, coming into a collaborative environment, coming into a place where we can cooperate and find a much better place to live and to move forward in our lives as we think about all these things that come into our lives every day, from laundry to putting barbecue grills to solving problems at work, in organizations that you're involved with, in your own home, with your family. Um, so that's my challenge to you this week. I hope you found this episode informative. Please feel free to leave comments and questions, and join us again next week. Thank you for being here. We'll see you then. Bye.